Okay, thank you guys for joining me today. This is Dr. Jeff Munn with Poplar Animal Hospital. I'm hoping you can see my screen here. The first picture, there are going to be a number of photos here. My goal today is to have you begin to think about your pet's health in a different form, in a different way, and I hope that I can convey that pretty well. So what we're going to do is I've got some images here, and the first thing you're going to notice is that none of them have any dogs or cats in them. So we're going to use the human as our pet model to kind of flip the script a little bit. And the first photo here on the left-hand side is a picture of me when I was, I think, 26, maybe 27. That's a senior vet school picture from, I think, in 1996 or 97. And then we'll fast forward over to this one. And this was this past summer in Turks and Caicos. By the way, if you ever get a chance to go to Turks and Caicos, that is an amazing place. It's one of my favorite places that I've ever been, so I would highly recommend it. If you call the office and I have completely fallen off the face of the earth, you can't get an appointment with me ever. I'm no longer at the office. It probably means I won the lottery and I am now living down here in Turks and Caicos. So side tangent over, and that's unlikely to happen because I rarely if ever play the lottery, so you will still be able to find me. This is my wife Kathy and my two kids Austin and Lauren. They're no longer kids anymore, they're like little grown-ups. But the difference that I'm trying to draw your attention to is that over time there are some changes that occur that we all know about. So I would ask, first of all, how many of you remember this age? And at that time versus now, when you got up in the morning, did you have to reach for some caffeine containing thing to get you going, like either a cup of coffee, or I know now they do these energy monster things. Luckily I have no knowledge of those things, but I see people with them all the time. But if you had your hand up, yeah, I have to do that in the morning, then that's one change that we've seen in a lot of people when we move from this age group in the 20s to maybe 2 decades or so later. The other things that I will tell you from my own standpoint is that this guy over here, he never had to wear reading glasses, which I do now. This entire area here looks completely different now. It's got a lot of different colorations. Of course, I still actually have hair, so that's one thing. I attribute a lot of these, at least the hair changes, to these two. Whether it's correct or not, I still like to attribute it that way. And then how many of you in the last week or two, when you got up, you rolled out of bed at 6 in the morning or whatnot, that something was a little bit tweaked or achy or something like that? You get a little pain right in here, and you don't really have an explanation for it. I can pretty much tell you that if I woke up and I was like, ugh, this is sore, this one, if he were in the room, he would say, well, what did you do? Because at his age, if something hurts, it's because he did something or she did something, and they can identify, I did something and that's why I'm sore today. Many of us will, when we get to this age group area in the 40, 45 plus region, will often find those little aches and pains, and we know that we didn't really do anything. So that's kind of a little bit of an obvious introduction. And if you're one of these folks that are still in this age category over here, just ask your parents. I guarantee you they will be able to identify with what we're talking about. So no big exciting things there, no great new knowledge, right? This is just what we were all told was aging when we were growing up. So I have a photo down here of, I'm told now there's a new Magnum PI, which to me is just sacrilege. I don't think you can, that's like the new Star Wars stuff. I'm like, also I guess I'm getting old. I'm like, no, you can't remake those things. There's only one Magnum PI, that's Thomas Magnum from the era when the Ferrari was bright and shiny red, and you can't have Magnum PI without a mustache. Anyway, the point of this image was to draw my attention, as I like to use the Ferrari as, when we're younger, our cellular level. So this will be where we go off into a little bit of new information in this. Our cellular level functions when you look at the cells, and I'm not going to draw way back into 8th grade biology, but we know that we have cells, and they have mitochondria, and we have the rough ER and the smooth ER, and remember all that stuff. But each cell is designed to actually make energy, or ATP. They're also the crux of cellular respiration, which helps you break down glucose, which is why when you're in this age category here, you can eat 3 pizzas without blinking and you still stay nice and thin. All those cellular level changes are part of what causes these effects that we see outwardly when we see that little wrinkle that's appearing up around the eyes when we're looking in the mirror brushing our teeth, but we still can't see the wrinkle quite as well because we don't have our reading glasses on. So the cellular level changes are basically consistent with what we were always told, well, that's the aging process. And we can see, young Thomas Magnum here to Tom Selleck as he's aged too. But the point is, really, in this image is, when you're younger, your cells are like a brand new Ferrari. They are able to speed up, go to 0 to 60. They can get rid of oxidative stresses, all these things that occur in the body. And over time, when we have poor nutrition, we have saturated fats in our foods, we have processed foods, we don't exercise as well, we have stress through the week of your work day, or stress of not sleeping as well as you should have, those things will affect at the cellular level how well your cells are able to do the things that they're able to do at a maximal optimal level when they're a Ferrari. But as they get older, they don't function as well, and we get more of a hopefully we're not already into the rusting areas, but over time things change. So the good news is there's things that we can do to help slow that change or optimize our cellular function levels. There's some cellular treatments, and that's what we're going to talk about with the optimal pet health profiles that we're able to do, and what I'm looking at for my first 30 people, my first 30 dogs that we're going to enroll in a program to do a 12-week protocol to look at optimizing the cellular level health to promote resistance to disease processes, and if you have something like osteoarthritis going on, how we can complement that and improve our results over time. So we want to slow down the likelihood and reduce the rust buildup. We'll get into a little bit of how aging occurs, and what you'll see here is that the two things that are running together is inflammation and aging. So inflammation we'll get to in another little bit, in a third sequence of like chapter 3. This is just introductory, and then finally, last thing I'll mention in this introduction really is this photo here. I just loved it, and this is to remind me to tell you guys about when you were younger. You probably remember there was a guy or a lady that lived down the street that was an older individual. Like at the time, older was like 70, 75, something like that. But they always looked younger than their age. We all kind of knew this person. They were out in the garden all the time. They were still active, even though they had achieved some longevity in life. We realized even at a young age that, hey, I'd rather be like that guy than someone else that we knew in our family that maybe was struggling a bit as they aged and just didn't have the vitality and the that their age showed a little differently. So we didn't really know how to put our finger on it, but we're like, boy, I hope when I'm his age, I look like that guy or that lady who just seems to be able to do everything still and is still going at 100%. And we kind of all chalked it up to, well, they just must have good genetics, those types of things. And to a degree, that is true. However, more and more, it's looking like we're able to do some things in a certain period of time that may stack the coins in our favor of being able to be more like that guy on the road. Now, this picture in particularly draws my memory back because this guy right here is probably going to be me because I look a whole lot like one side of my family, and we used to go to the beach quite a lot, probably about in this era when you would wear these types of trunks and stuff. But this guy right here, that body type is like exact for the side of my family that I like resemble completely. So maybe if I'm lucky, I'll stay in that decent shape depending on how old this dude is. But this picture, I just had to do it because we were almost always on a beach somewhere, and this looks just like a combination of 2 or 3 of my relatives when they were in that age group. So for good or bad, that's probably, if I get there, going to be a similar picture. Although maybe I will put a little something like a shirt on, so I'm not. I don't know. At that age, to be honest, I probably won't care. But that's kind of the intro to give you a little bit of background before we get into the next section. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the changes that I've seen and what I've gotten into, which is trying to balance the potential benefits that are going to be there for looking at the cellular level treatments and what we traditionally do, and examples will help with that. Like if you have diabetes, you need insulin, and we're never going to not do what we need to do from the standpoint of you need insulin. If you need insulin, you need insulin. However, there are some other things that we can predetermine. We know if you have diabetes, it's going to affect the way that the liver functions. Fat builds into the liver. It causes some inflammatory effects. So if we can help the liver function, if we can have good weight control, if we can have nutrition that supports and acts in concert with our medicines, then doing those two things together are going to give you much better control, delay the likelihood that you get cataracts, which are a big deal in diabetics and in our patients, and all those good things. So our biggest issue in our aging population, so there are 2 categories. We have acute injury. If you get into an accident, don't go see the acupuncturist, right? You need to go get help immediately. But long term, the long-term chronic patients that we see, inflammation is actually one of our biggest culprits of how we're going to attack the aging phenomenon and slow the aging process, or make it so that as we age, or as our patients age, as our dogs and our furry friends age, how can we have them age with the vitality that we want with these guys look pretty good for their age. So I'll leave it there for this one because I've got to get a couple more things together but the next chapter, if you want to call it, is going to be looking at how do we meld in or blend traditional disease-oriented disease treatment medicine and maximize some cellular level treatment. One little sneak peek. Why do I think cellular level treatment is the wave of the future and something that can really help our patients as they get older to retain their vitality? Well, there's one thing that we do at our office right now that I was very interested in, and lucky enough to kind of talk some of the other folks and the other folks in the business part of the practice into letting us bring this in, and that is laser therapy, because it works at a cellular level. And this is outside of that, but it does kind of bring that in as a treatment modality where we've seen the benefits of treating on a cellular level. So I will put in a short blurb, maybe a separate little video of how that's worked in a couple of our patients, just 2 examples of an acute treatment and a chronic treatment, and how that has augmented or worked in concert with what we are already doing for an osteoarthritis patient or a patient with a hot spot, and just a short, probably 2 or 3 minutes, to show how cellular level treatment's working and how we can build that in even further into an optimal pet profile and this optimal pet health protocol that I'm going to do a 12-week protocol with my initial group of the 30 that we get enrolled here. So below there will be another section that says I'm interested in, why did I do that? I'm interested in the program, and that's more like the nuts and bolts of how you enroll and how you can get access to be one of the 30 that gets in our starter group, and what the benefits of being in the first 30 are going to be, and that kind of thing. So down below you click there, but we'll go through the other parts first. So again, thank you for taking a few minutes to spend a little time with me in this initial conversation, and I will get some things together. You'll see another click you can click on for part 2, where we go into traditional medicine therapy, like Western medicine. It's always combated or has been pitted up against Eastern medicine, which is traditional Western versus Eastern, which has been called alternative. We'll talk a little bit about that and how there is a lane, I think, in the middle, and we're seeing it in the human medicine side. We'll touch on that briefly, but we'll get into that in just a minute if you want to click over on the next one there. So thanks again.